We now continue with Smurf.
This is going to be really hard to explain without dropping a lot of context and typing for hours. All I want to do is get this off of my chest, no matter the consequences I might face. All you need to know is that I work for a covert branch of the government, which I will not be naming directly. I will not be telling you what this branch is called. It's a federal program that cannot operate publicly. We are assigned to do tasks that cannot be handled out in the open, and that cannot be leaked for whatever reason. Just cleanup, essentially. We have to make sure that certain information cannot get out to the public, that key witnesses are not able to share anything, and that information is obfuscated. I know that's a little vague right now, but I think it will be obvious once I tell you what actually happened. I don't claim to know the ins and outs or everything that goes on. All I can tell you is what I personally experienced firsthand and was assigned to. The first most notable case I was assigned to actually happened on the outskirts of Las Vegas, in a very rural and isolated part of the city. I was on standby at the time. I was pretty much always on standby. A lot of the time you live in quarters that they assign to you, or in accommodation in a city where there is a business, I guess you could call it. It means a lot of moving around and never settling in one place. It means you can't really form connections with anyone, but that's irrelevant rambling. I was already awake at the time. I think it was close to midnight or so. I was contacted on my work-issued phone, and they only explained really the exact amount of information that I needed to know to do my job. The voice was always different each time, and I of course was not aware of any of the identities. They sounded weird, and looking back, I think they were certainly using voice changers, or maybe some kind of AI software in order to mask the real voice. I was given a location and a time window in which I had to be there. I was given a code phrase just to confirm that this had been verified by someone higher up. I was given a rural address in Las Vegas to head out to, but I would be accompanied by a couple of other people. I think it was 3 of us. Hard to remember because it was so long ago, but I think it was to not draw attention. Things like this where people can see you go in and out, I figure less people is better. I knew vaguely what happened, some kind of attack I think. The property owner had called 911, reporting an intruder, but it cut off. The details given must have flagged something, which is why I was being sent. Local responders had already been told to stand down, due to a federal training exercise or some other bullshit excuse like that. They do this all the time. The right people know, and the wrong people get told to shut up. Instead, we will be dressing as local officers and responding to the scene. I was told to expect possible exposure and to bring full kit. This usually meant that someone had seen something they were not supposed to, and I had to verify exactly what they knew and then proceed from there. The property was far enough out that there were no immediate neighbors, which was probably why the call got escalated so quickly. You could see the house from the road because the porch light was still on. There were no cars or anything around. No police, no ambulance. I parked us a short distance away and we proceeded on foot. We scanned the perimeter first and checked for any signs of activity or movement or something else being in the area. The first thing I noticed in the area was this acrid smell. It smelled like when puke dries up in a carpet and is left to bake for hours. It was completely silent around too. I could not hear anything coming from the house or anything in the immediate area. I took a look in the yard before moving inside, and with my flashlight, I caught sight of some footprints. Only, they didn't actually look like footprints. They looked more like an object to put heavy pressure down somewhere. Something heavy and without any distinct shape, other than a rectangle kind of thing maybe. They were much too deep for a human to make, even if they jumped up and down on the spot. It was more like if you took your wardrobe and plonked it down outside. The other weird thing in the yard was that the grass had scorch marks on it. I could not really tell what had caused it exactly. It didn't look to be from a barbecue or anything like that. The grass was damp with something and was a little slippy, so there was no way it was a bushfire. One of the other guys whispered something to me that I didn't manage to process before I heard the sound of something. It sounded like something heavy had just smacked against concrete, something metal maybe. I heard a funk and some scraping, and it sounded like something really heavy was running. So we swung around the property as carefully as we could, and I don't even know fully what I saw, if I'm honest. This was not my first rodeo, but before this, most of my work had been mundane. Things that I could probably explain if I was given enough to connect the dots. But what I saw running towards the tree line was something that was not human. I did not see it for very long, because it moved so quickly, but I caught the general shape of it. This thing was tall. I'm talking coming up to over halfway of a tree's height tall. I know that's not exactly accurate, but it's the best I can work with. It was pretty dark, but I remember with my flashlight, I saw that the body was shimmering, I guess I would say. When the light hit the thing, it shimmered, and the skin looked rough. The only other thing I managed to notice was just as it was disappearing into the tree line. I saw it start to bend over and put its hands onto the ground, and when it did, I saw it sink into the ground. And that's it. I did not give chase because I had no idea what I was dealing with, and we were not ordered to engage unless in self-defense. Gunshots would only complicate the situation. The only thing I don't understand looking back is why it chose to flee. I mean, it probably could have killed us easily with the speed that it was running. We found the survivor, but he was in a terrible state, and I knew almost immediately that he would not make it without immediate medical intervention. He was slouched up against this couch with the TV still going. He was barefoot, and I remember that the t-shirt he was wearing was half soaked in blood, but it was also burned through in places to the point it looked like he was wearing tattered rags. The burns in the t-shirt did not make sense though. Where these burns were, there were no burn marks underneath on the survivor's skin. When he saw us, he just weakly raised his arms up into the air, and I could hear him struggling for breath. He was wheezing, and sounded like he was trying to breathe with water inside his lungs. My colleague immediately got down and started to examine and attend to him while I paged the necessary number. No reply meant that we had to sit and wait while securing the perimeter. I did not find anything else strange around the property, which I suppose was weird in itself. There was no evidence of any kind of tampering with the doors or the locks, and no smashed glass. We had to prise the front door open ourselves as it had been sealed shut. The survivor could not do anything but make horrible gurgling noises, so asking him anything was no use. My colleague filled me in once I had finished scouting the house, and up close, the injuries looked worse than I first thought. There were bruises that had already started to form underneath his skin, really deep and nasty ones. But the skin was still intact and did not show any signs of blunt force trauma or any kind of scratches or wounds. My colleague said he had never seen anything like this. He said it looked like a result of massive internal pressure, but that there were not any marks as evidence of this, so he was just doing guesswork. His forearm had a kind of pattern pressed into it. You know when you hold your skin up tight to some kind of object and it leaves an imprint? It was like this, but it was a similar looking shape to what we had seen in the mud. Again, the skin was not burned or broken, so we had no idea why. We tried asking him questions again for a while, but it was no use. He could not even look me in the eye when he talked to me. His eyes were just slowly moving back and forth while looking up at the ceiling. He kept trying to point, but he did not even have the energy to lift his arm all the way, so I'm not sure what he was trying to tell us. I made sure to page another message with more information this time. We were told to stabilize him and prepare him for transport. My colleague made it very clear that in his state, he would not last long without medical intervention. Not in an emotional way or anything, but just making sure that it was fully understood, but there was no talk of that. He eventually managed to gather enough breath to gargle something weakly to us. It was cut off, but I understand he was trying to ask if we were going to help. I knelt down beside him and assured him that help would be on the way and forced a big smile to calm him down. And then he just went back to wheezing and looking up at the ceiling. He was slipping by the time transport arrived, and we had to hoist him outside while he was wrapped in a blanket big enough to obscure him. They took him away, and that was the last I saw or heard of the matter. I don't know if that actually really explained anything. After that, the house needed to be cleaned. We carried out the basics before leaving in order to not draw attention, and then the work would be passed over. We scrubbed any marks, cleaned up any fluids or messes and things like that. made sure there was no evidence of scorch marks or footprints left outside, and we were always asked to empty the house of as much as we could. Anything that we could remove easily. Documents, clothes, smaller personal items. We would take it with us and drop them off at a handover point out at whatever remote place was closest, and then we would continue driving back to where we were staying. We would take pictures of these footprints and stuff like that before we destroyed them too, and we would hand those over at the same time, and then we would continue driving back to where we were staying. Whether shitty motel rooms that were discreet or nearby cleared out apartments, just whatever, it didn't matter. I know that there was a lot more to it than that because this is not the only thing I ever did, but I don't know if I'm even being coherent right now. I just feel so awfully guilty when I think about it. We are taught to compartmentalize things in order to cope with what you do. The success rate varies from person to person. I think it's the way he wasted his last words asking me to help him. I always end up thinking about that when I am trying to drift off. I guess I should at least try to explain more so that it becomes a little bit clearer at least. I don't know if any of this will actually be of use to anyone. It's just more of a confession of what I was involved in, I guess. This second incident that stuck in my head happened the same year, but around the back end of it. Most of the things I dealt with in my time were simple. Not simple as in they were easy, but simple as in they were things that I understood. This one did not happen anywhere out in public. This happened at a secure industrial facility in a relatively rural place in Utah. I don't know exactly what was being handled there, but I know it was civilian. I mean, this place had cameras and access logs and a fair amount of employees. The place was still running when we arrived this time, and you could hear all of the machinery going full throttle. I just want to clarify that you almost never work with the same people. It's just rare for the same people to line up twice, I guess, or for them to stick it out, I suppose, could be another reason, but that's just a thought that popped into my head right now. The affected area was a sealed room used for storage, or at least, that's what it was supposed to be. The door was intact and the lock was unbroken, but inside, everything felt off. The air had that same ozone smell, and there was a fine residue on the floor that looked like dust until you noticed the absence of footprints. There was a section of this dust, though, where it had not settled. Again, there were no footprints, but the dust had been displaced, I guess, without actually having been touched. I guess like someone had maybe blown on it, or some wind had moved it and piled it up in a different way. We found a worker sat slumped up against a wall nearby, and he was holding a cloth up to his face. There was blood just pouring out of his nose, but almost as soon as it hit the air, it was drying up and becoming solid. It was like he was just bleeding a long string of clotted blood at some point. He barely even took notice of us when we stepped inside the room. He reacted when he heard our steps, but he did not look towards us immediately. He was kind of doing this swaying motion while sat down, like he was drawing circles with his body. Like when someone is drunk and super off balance and the room is spinning, so you can see them just drifting around in a circle. Exactly like that. This worker clearly had no alcohol in his system, you could just tell. His pupils were wide, bigger than I had ever seen, and his eyes were strained. You could see all of the blood vessels in them really strained. It looked painful. I got down on my knees and kept clicking my fingers so that his eyes would focus on me, but he could not do it. He could not hold his eyes in my direction for more than a second or two. He was clearly dazed and confused. He kept mumbling something to me about the room. I tried asking him, but he just kept saying, "The room, the room, the room," over and over again. None of us were in the mood to screw around, so we picked him up to his feet and walked him out of there. He was putting his whole body weight down onto the ground, so we had to drag him along the floor as he dug his heels in. He became lucid enough to ask questions once we had been driving for a little while. He asked where we were going and why, and I could tell he was starting to panic. I tried to reassure him that he was being relocated for safety and to receive medical attention, but he did not buy it. Once we got to the handoff point and we opened up the back, he lunged at one of us and tried to fight. He was still dazed and off balance, so he missed completely and face planted. One of the handoff agents took the opportunity to knock him out, so to speak. I was never involved with anything after these cases took place, but I knew a lot more than I pretended to in front of other people. It's an open secret, and the more cases that you take, the more rumors you hear, and the more you can infer. Some things become crystal clear. Again, I do not claim to know everything, but I know these handoffs are a safety measure. To compartmentalize different tasks so everyone only knows a little. I cannot be 100% sure, but I'd like to say I'm at least 95% sure that these people, I'm handing them off to be poked and prodded and then discarded. How, I don't know. Cleaning a house and gutting it in a rural area is one thing, but a civilian workplace, I don't know how that is done. We just hand it off and I don't think about it anymore. I don't know how the families are handled if they have any. We just close our eyes and the problem is magicked away by someone else, from my perspective at least. I can infer this because of the nature of the job, because of the other incidents I've been involved in. I've never done the dirty work, I guess you could put it, but I've done some horrible things. My hands are not clean. I guess I can share one more. I guess I don't have much to lose at this point. This one is more believable, I guess. More human, at least. One that I understand. It's certainly one I think about a lot, because it's not something I can pretend was my imagination, or was something I did not understand. I don't want to make this too long or dwell on it too much. I don't want to give too many complicated details either. I will just say that there was some kind of internal exposure. A leak from the inside to the outside, but I'm not sure of what kind. All I was told was that I was just to head to his house and escort him back. It was only 2 of us this time, and we just wore casual, run-of-the-mill clothes. We pulled up at the property and knocked, and I think somewhere deep down he knew, but I don't know. I saw him get a little sweaty, and he stuttered a little, which made me think he was going to try something. We just explained that we were going to be his escorts for his next assignment, for his personal safety. Again, I don't know if he bought it or not, but he followed us and got into the back. We gave him what he needed to know about what he was doing, and that seemed to calm him down a lot, so he must have either been familiar or just thought it sounded believable. But after we had been driving for a few hours out into the desert, I heard some really light sobbing coming from the back. I did not bother turning around or trying to say anything anymore. I think this one hit me so hard because it was the closest I had been to seeing the aftermath. After a little bit more time, he asked me again where we were going, and I reaffirmed what I had said earlier. He did not snap at me, but just asked me again, and I just gave him a look and shook my head. He started asking me things I didn't have the answer to. He asked me about his wife. He asked me if I could pass on a message. He started damn near having a panic attack. I could hear him get down onto his knees and start praying underneath his breath. I could not do anything but ignore his questions because, I did not have an answer. I didn't know. When I opened up the bag to hand him off, he was just laying on his side, pressed up against the corner with his knees raised up high. He was shaking really badly. I could not even look at him. He did not fight, but the 2 of us still had to grab him and hoist him up. The handoff agents put something over his head and just dragged him off by pulling him along the ground. And again, just like that, that was the end of that. I never saw anything else. I was never involved in anything else. I'm sorry that they were all so disjointed and some were probably incomplete and did not explain a lot. That is honestly all I really know. For years, I did this shit, but most weren't like that, but most of them were like the last one. Most were more mundane, and I never really saw anything aside from the first 2 cases. Those were the strangest ones I was involved in. For years, I did this shit. For years, and I knew deep down somewhere that I was essentially executing these people. There is serious blood on my hands, and I don't know how to live with myself anymore. I'm not a part of this anymore. I'm nowhere near there anymore. I'm still so damn paranoid though. I just want to hide away in a hole and die and not have to think about this stuff anymore. I'm sorry to all of those people. I don't really know what was happening. But still, I should have known better. I should have said no. I should have done anything else at all. I'm sorry that this is a fat load of nothing and tells you nothing about the agency. I'm sorry. Just a final note before the video finishes, if you somehow managed to miss the disclaimers in the description and on my channel. This story is not real. This is a creepypasta for entertainment. My channel specializes in immersive fiction, which means that stories like this are written to feel realistic, so that you can more easily suspend your disbelief and enjoy being scared. Remember, this is a creepypasta channel and not a conspiracy one. Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. This happened to me when I was around 16 years old. It was homecoming weekend. It's kind of a tradition to toilet paper someone's house. Me and my two friends decide to go out and TP the house of someone that I really hate. We drive to her house at 2 a.m. We get out of the car, start looking around the place. It's kinda eerie and quiet for a house near the busy part of town, but then again it was 2 a.m. I am about to start, until my friend says that this might not be her house. We decide to leave and go TP someone else's house. We start to drive off, me sitting in the back, my two friends in the front. We are coasting around. I'm looking outside the windows to make sure that there are no cops around. Headlights are following us for quite a while. I tell my friends that this car has been following us for the past 8 blocks or so. My friend goes down foreign roads that no one goes down to be sure that this car is not just coincidentally following us. The car keeps on following us. Damn it. We start to speed up, taking fast turns. The car is still on our ass. At this point, my friends and I are spooked as hell. We've managed to drive on about every road in town, and they are still following us. We start honking for something in return. The car does not honk back. We drive down neighborhoods blasting our horn to maybe scare off the person driving the car, but it is no use. They are not letting up. We finally lose them after sharp turns and speeding through a neighborhood only me and my friend would drive through. We get to the end of the neighborhood to get back onto the main road. Coming out of the main road, the car turns into us and hits the front of our car. The car has its brights on. My friend starts frantically screaming. She cannot see shit because of the brights. She puts the shit into reverse. We hit a mailbox. She puts it back into drive and starts speeding off past the car. The car does a U-turn in the road and starts following us once again. We are doing 85 in a 40-mile-per-hour zone, passing 2 police SUVs, honking like hell for help. We are so desperate. The police do not even give a shit. They did not even follow us. The car starts edging closer to the back of our car. It's tailgating us with its brights on, and we cannot see shit back there. I am trying to get a glance at who is driving the car, but no luck. The car is tapping the back of our car. I navigate my friend to drive to the only place in town that would be open this late, McDonald's. We show up to McDonald's speeding in front of the car, so we were ahead by probably half a mile. We dash into McDick's and start crying while watching outside for the car. We see nothing for a good 10 minutes. At this point, the McDick's workers think we are crazy as hell. They give us free sodas without question. We finally start to relax, thinking it's finally over. Lol, nope. Right as soon as we finish our sodas, the car comes into the McDick parking lot. All of our fears have returned. The car is parked at the back of the lot. Eventually, the car's headlights shut off, like the driver was wanting for us to not see them. We wait for hours for them to leave. Many soda refills later, the car finally turns on its headlights and creeps towards the exit. We still wait an extra hour, making sure they are gone for good. After an hour, we get inside of our car with our hearts pounding and start heading to my house to sleep. As soon as we get out of the parking lot, the car was there again. We are screaming our heads off at this point. We speed through another neighborhood that only we would know the shortcuts for. We get towards the end, and once again, The car turns off the main road and hits the front of our car. My friend puts the car in reverse. We back up the whole neighborhood, about half a mile long. We back into a driveway. My friend just wants to bang on the door and ask for help, but I say screw that. There is no way I am getting out of this car. I convince my friend that we need to stay in the car and just go to the police station. We blast out of the driveway, making our way to the police station. The car chases us the whole way down to the station. After vigorous turns and speeds, we drive there, realizing they're closed inside at 4 a.m. What the hell? We decide to hightail it back to McDonald's. We arrive back there once again, shaken, scared, and once again, crying. The car is sitting out there, watching for us again. Luckily, me and my friend have police officers for dads. I decide I will call my dad, even though he will be pissed at me for sneaking out. I call up my dad, bawling on the phone. He shows up, sporting 2 pistols. I don't know anything about guns. His police baton, a high-powered flashlight, and of course his badge. My dad steps out of the car in uniform. The car suddenly makes a dash for it, speeding out of the parking lot as fast as light. My dad buys all of us cheeseburgers and drinks while we all cry, telling him what the car looked like and what happened. Weeks later, I had my dad search for the car license plate. Yes, I got the license plate when they hit our car the first time. Turns out it was a 64-year-old man who had charges for sex offenses, drugs, meth, and assault. I have not driven past 10 p.m. since that day. Me and 2 of my friends are driving home after a party. I am the designated driver. My friends are in various states of drunkenness. We're on the highway. There is a cop car behind us. It signals to pull over. I ask what the problem is. I expect an alcohol test or something. They ask us to step out of the car and ask for permission to check the trunk. Okay. The cops explain that they are looking for gas station robbers. They shot an employee and stuff. We apparently fit the description. We laugh with the cops about the poorly chosen getaway car. We are driving a 53 horsepower Wagon R, like the robbers. Not the best choice for a quick getaway. Anyways, we are back on track again. 10 minutes later, this shitty looking VW Bora starts driving next to us. Some seriously angry dudes stare at us, and they are doing all kinds of hand signals. If they are related to the robbers, this could not be good. I continue driving home. We are nearing the place where we get off the highway. The Bora is driving behind us now, following us. We get off the highway. They start to zigzag behind us. Fortunately, there is still some traffic, so they cannot overtake us. I am driving as fast as I can. That little engine is giving more than I can imagine. That noise though. The Bora starts bumping into us. My friends are all scared sober in the meantime. The Bora is driving like mad. It has space now to overtake us. I U-turn over 9,000. My car almost tipped over. The Bora just blazes past us in the totally opposite direction. Nice, we won some time. I take as much turns as possible, trying to lose them. My friend spots the old bank in that part of town. They have this small entryway to an underground garage. I drive towards the garage. It's closed, of course, but the car cannot be seen from the road anymore. I turn the engine off and kill the lights. We are just sitting there quietly, trying not to freak out. We hear a car speeding and drifting close by. Oh shit. They pass us. We sit there for like 15 minutes. I decide to get out of the car and take a look. It's all quiet. We drive home. Next day, we report to the police. They ask, "Why didn't you call during the chase?" And I didn't really have an answer. I guess I just forgot. Anyways, the Bora crashed into a lamppost in the center of town. The people got caught by the police. This is literally the only paranormal thing that has ever happened to me, but it terrified me. I was around 12 years old or so. I walk into the backyard of my mom's house around sunset. She is working near the gate to the side yard, installing some electric fence to keep our dog in. I am watching her from the edge of the deck, looking down a bit. I see an older woman that my mom is friends with, literally named Eleanor, come up from the side yard. This is strange to me, because Eleanor did not live anywhere near us. She stops in front of my mom and stares at her quietly. Her jaw looks kind of slack. My mom looks up, seems to stare through her for a few moments, and mumbles something at her that I could not hear. Eleanor does not respond, just continues to stare for 10 to 15 seconds. She suddenly turns and locks eyes with me. She looks extremely tired. Her eyes look glossed over. Her hair is curly and comes down to about the base of the neck, but it is all grey and frayed. She looked much more drained and colourless than how I remembered. I had seen this woman many times before. She slowly turns her head back towards my mom, pauses, and then walks away. I am heavily disturbed by this. My mom finishes working. She comes up to where I was sitting and asks me what I'm doing. I don't answer. I immediately ask her why Eleanor, who lives a state over, was suddenly at our house. She's like, who? What? I insist Eleanor was there. I was less than 15 meters away and I have good eyesight. She looks confused. Eleanor wasn't here. She doesn't live near here. I tell her I knew that I was 100% positive it was Eleanor, or that I at least saw someone. My mom insists nobody ever came up to her while she was working. My mom has no sense of humor and never tried to fool me, so this freaks me out. I don't see Eleanor again. I ask about the event one more time several years later. She does not remember it at all, but mentions that Eleanor died of a heart attack not too long after the fence was installed. I remember that me and my mom had stopped visiting her around that time in my life.